1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, the so-called impeachment thing is happening today, I guess. Oh, they're doing it right now. Ambassador, whatever his name, Taylor and Kent, testifying in the hearing. I was looking up at the TV. And who cares, right? Boring. There's only like a couple people who are worth listening to in Congress, I guess. There's one guy, Kennedy, that I kind of like. He kind of talks sort of plainly. But even I'm not even sure about him, right? So, whatever. Who cares? As Jesse says, it's going nowhere. They're going to do what they're going to do in the House. And then, they don't really have anything. So, I've been promising, speaking of the attack on men, this so-called impeachment thing is a total attack on a real man. The only man in the whole government is under attack for being a man. And he's a man because he's going after the corrupt people. He's not pretending to be, I don't want to look like I'm politically motivated. No, he wants to go after, investigate the Bidens, which is something that we should do. It's in the national interest. We should investigate these corrupt, filthy, a little too comfortable in their positions of power type people who've been in Congress and the government forever. And it's so ridiculous because, we all, those of us who are old enough all remember the Clinton impeachment hearings and all that stuff. And some of these same people were in office way back then. And that was more than 20 years ago, 1998 and earlier, I think. Well, definitely 1998. I was a junior in high school. And now I'm more than 20 years out of high school. So that's crazy. I graduated June 17th, 1999. I remember walking a month before I turned 18. And now I'm over 38. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about this guy who turned 68. And one of the guys who hates white people, the blacks who hates white people, called into the show and talked about this guy that turned 68, and he came over here for his high school reunion all the way from one of those Midwestern states, and he was upset because his wife had died. Speaking of guys that are upset because their wife died, right? And he was supposed to drive this road with her, cruising, kind of pretending like they were back in high school again. I don't know if she was a high school sweetheart. And so since he didn't have her, he was so upset, according to him, that he threw fire out and lit the grasslands on fire, other people's property on fire. Fortunately, it didn't result in any it was property damage, but no structural damage and no injuries. But he created a whole lot of mess. Such a shame. Ridiculous people. Anyways, that was a white man who did that. And he seemed all happy at his 50-year reunion. I don't know if I'm invited to my 20-year reunion. I went to the 10-year reunion, all late. There were only about 80 people who showed up. I was the 82nd. I showed up at 10 p.m. or after 10 p.m. and most people were gone by then. But I reconnected with a couple of people. It was cool. But anyways, it's an attack on men, and men have become so weak. I've been promising that I was going to talk about this hashtag church too. And so I'm just going to get to it right away. And then I'll get to your calls. Appreciate some of you guys are already holding. I'm not sure what you want to talk about. Some of you that are on hold now. Should make sure you clarify that, Nick, please. But I wanted to talk about this hashtag church too, which is a spin-off of the hashtag Me Too. And some of these women who are participating in this mess, or, pawns in this mess, are pretending that they're not about the church too thing. And they're creating their websites and all kinds of mess, accusing people of pastoral abuse, not taking responsibility for their own selves and their own parts in their relationship. Basically, two selfish people coming together, which is how it's supposed to be, which is how it always is. And it's not abuse, but they're accusing people of abuse and not taking any responsibility for themselves. Adult women. It's so ridiculous. So let me get right into this, and then I'll get to some of these news items. The Beta Supreme Court, corrupt judges, corrupt ACLU, pushing lawsuits on gunmakers over the victims of Sandy Hook thing. So ridiculous. And then the ACLU and some stupid Obama judge said that they pretend to care about the Fourth Amendment, which is unlawful searches and seizures. But when you're responsible for national security and you have all these weird people coming in, Muslims and everybody else, minorities, why can't you look at their phones and stuff? But they are trying to hamstring our people that are trying to protect us, right? And then the Beta NFL, who are caving to the SJWs like Colin Kaepernick and Komen for the Cure. Beta journalists with their worthless jobs showing off how little or much they get paid. Oh my gosh, this is such an interesting story. Crying discrimination. But let me get to this hashtag church too thing. So you all know about this hashtag Me Too thing. It's where women and gays accuse men of, especially men of power, of whatever, sexual impropriety or something like that. And they're not taking any responsibility for what they did. And they're, instead of being classy and just dealing with it, because it was an issue between the two people, they want to tell everybody else about it, tattletales. Such a girly thing to do, right? Wrong kind of girly, right? So I found this in Huffington Post, of course, right? It was a push notification to my phone. It's not that I go to Huffington Post all the time anymore. I'm not a producer, so I'm not looking for ridiculous stories anymore. So women are accusing this evangelical... Here's this headline, Joel. I have these in church too. Mess. Women accuse evangelical pastor of abuse years after being told to keep silent. This accused pastor is now... show the headline. This accused pastor is now a top candidate to be a senior pastor of a Southern Baptist church. They've been going after churches like crazy. Huffington Post is anti-Christian, and now these so-called Christian women are pawns in the attack on Christian churches and Christianity. And yes, you can say that a lot of these churches are beta churches and weak and pathetic, and a lot of these pastors are weak too. But they're taking the side of the women accusers. Satan is the accuser, right? So, and this all happened 17 years ago. Look at these pictures. They're like, obviously, they look like they're from the 90s, which is what the early 2000s looked like, believe it or not. August 19th, 2002 was this shot. And I'm showing pictures of this guy who was apparently, according to them, a youth pastor at the time that he was dating these two girls. And I don't know if he dated them both at the same time or what. But... so these two girls are not girls at all. They're women, 18 years old. Here's the pastor with this woman, Megan Frey, in an airport. I guess they were going to Las Vegas together on a trip. Shouldn't have been doing that, but hey, they're adults. They did it. They agreed to do it. The parents agreed to do it. Looks like the back of a Crown Victoria. That one. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been in the back of a Crown Victoria. So anyways, A Crown Victoria is a police car or a taxi cab. Yeah. Oh, I have been in the back of a Crown Victoria, a taxi cab. Those are nice. So here's this pastor who's under attack, Dr. Wes Feltner. He looks a little bit older. So he's like this lead pastor at this Berrien church now. And that was from November 9th, a screenshot of their website. But this man is under attack. His name is Wes Feltner. The women attacking him are Megan Frey and Joanna Hendrickson. And the story goes, it's really humiliating. Like, they shouldn't be spreading this, but I'm going to just tell you. He told one of them, I mean, I guess many people can relate to this. He felt the Lord was leading him to date her. Oh, man, that's so embarrassing, ridiculous, and relatable, I guess. A lot of people can relate to that. Thinking that having all these feelings and thinking it's the Lord, it was Satan. She went to him for counseling after a bad breakup, and I think that he had to break up with another woman that he was dating already in order to get with her. But anyways, they got the parents' permission. Both of these women that are accusing him were 18 at the time that they were dating him. But they're accusing him of pastoral abuse. He was not a real pastor. He was a youth pastor. And a youth pastor, as most of you probably know, or some of you who know, who grew up in this church stuff, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, know that these youth pastors are just guys. They're like just one of the guys a little bit older than the people, supposed to be like serious about being a Christian, like being kind of trained in leadership, getting their practice leading a group of people, young people. But they're not like a serious pastor. Yeah, they're supposed to take it seriously, but that's not how it goes. Usually they end up being mischievous. They're more mischievous, engaging in mischief. And this I guess could be considered an example of that, because he started dating these girls. So, and I think that he even got permission from the pastor to date them. But I think he had to keep it secret because it does look funny. But regardless, one of them admits that she helped keeping it secret. That's her fault. But it wasn't a secret from the parents. So anyways, this woman, Joanna Hendrickson, claims that it's not about them, but the bigger problem is it's a bigger problem in the church. So she's bringing this specific situation, trying to ruin this guy, and pretending that she's just making a bigger point about we need to pay attention about this stuff in the churches. Rolling my eyes. And the Southern Baptist Convention, which is a beta church, I think, for the most part, they said that they're addressing sexual abuse as a top priority after so-called multiple scandals in recent years. And I've seen, and I may have reported on these things, because there's like these files of thousands of so-called victims of pastors or whatever, but you don't know what the truth really is. And yes, you do find people in power trying to protect themselves and each other. So it's just a mess. But it's really, the issue is the moral breakdown of the society, of the people. And you have to blame the so-called victims for getting involved, because most of the times these victims have a hand to played a part in their own so-called victimization. And really it's more regret, and they're probably more mad at themselves. You'll notice that women tend to blame themselves because they, in a sense sometimes, because they know it's their fault too. But then they'll oftentimes say, oh no, that's just my brainwashing. And so that's so ridiculous. So some apparently feminist activist, Amy Smith, is sounding off in Huffington Post. Huffington Post, like I said, anti-Christian. And she's an advocate for sexual abuse survivors. And they always use that word survivor instead of victims. But it's the same thing as victims. It's just trying to make the woman sound tougher, which she's not. And she said that in 13 states, it's a crime for clergy to get involved, have a sex or sexual encounters with people that they're counseling. And I don't know why there would be a law about that. It seems ridiculous, seems like overkill, seems like meddling. But I mean, it should be common sense that a pastor shouldn't, or a counselor shouldn't be doing that. Seems like common sense to me. But she accuses him of preying on these teens, preying like a predator, right? Like a predator attacking these teens. When in reality, he was just a young guy interested in young women. And the young women were interested back. And the parents knew about it. So she's blowing it up. She's being evil. And she claims that he disqualified himself from the ministry forever, as if she's the judge of it. Some stupid Amy Smith feminist activist woman. I'm assuming that she's feminist. She sounds like a feminist. She's acting like a feminist. She's not the judge. So she's claiming that sex between a pastor and a congregant is never consensual. Here's that other thing, never consensual. So she's basically calling it rape, because if it's not consensual, it's rape. That's how low a standard they're declaring rape is nowadays, due to the imbalance of power, as if the girl has no choice but to give in to like the immoral demands of some pastor if the pastor says, hey, have sex with me. Stupid. That's just like the people accusing Harvey Weinstein of it can never be consensual between Harvey Weinstein and these women who willingly have sex with him in order to further their careers, because he's so powerful in their career, and their career is more important to them than their dignity. They are the ones who willingly gave up their dignity for their own careers. And so it is with this thing. Any Christian woman, young woman, knows that you shouldn't be having sex with the pastor. It doesn't. If a pastor asks you to have sex with him or her, because nowadays there's female pastors and they're predators too, right? Then you know that that's not from God. So there's no, it's stupid. So obviously it's consensual. You gave into it. These are not kids, but they pretend it like they're kids. So there's this website called Brought to Light, broughttothelight.org, right? These two women have, these females, where they have Joanna's story, Joanna Hendrickson, and Megan's story, Megan Frey. And Joanna Hendrickson claims that Wes broke up with another woman, Stephanie, that he was dating in order to get with her. There's a picture of Joanna from way back in 2002. And they look happy. That doesn't look like abuse. And of course, behind closed doors, people do abusive things towards each other, or mean things, cruel things to each other, especially with when sex is involved, because that's where, it brings out the worst in people. Because it's basically a selfish act. They weren't having babies. So if they even had sex, I don't actually know. I don't know why he chose the girls. They're not cute. What? Dang. These are like white girls. And if you're listening to the show, you may... I read a note from Joel thinking that they're not cute. But show the two girls. So one, I think they're mildly attractive. That's mild.
She definitely ain't cute.
What? I mean, I think it's just because her legs look all big in front, but what?
I don't know.
Zoom in on the faces.
Okay. Let's see. This is.
I don't know. They match.
What's her name? This
is Megan Frey, I think.
Okay, Megan Frey.
I don't know. That's mildly cute, attractive.
Again, the other
18-year-olds generally still, they don't look old, decrepit. But it's funny. And then this girl, mildly attractive.
Joanna, she look a little better.
That's funny. And she looks lighter, fairer skin. That's interesting, Joel. It's funny to me because usually my friends, I'm used to my friends of color, the Asians especially, and some of the whites, some of the Hispanics. Actually, most of the Hispanics I know, liberals, dated or married or whatever to white girls. But anyways, like, it seems to me that most
fair
of my...
skin is lighter?
Yeah, fair skin means lighter skin.
Oh, yeah, she's lighter.
Yeah. But usually, like, the people of color have lower standards for the girls, the white girls, because they look exotic to them no matter what. And, like, your own race, you don't see as that special. And so you have higher standards of the beauty of your own race. And then for the other races, like they could be prettier. They could seem prettier to you, even though the own race people, the Asians, may think, her? She's just plain Jane.
Right.
But I'm surprised that Joel thinks that they're both kind of plain. And I think that they're okay. That's because Joel has a boo-boo and I don't, I think.
Yeah,
So anyways, Joanna Hendrickson claims that West broke up with another woman that he was dating to get with her. She said the relationship needed to stay secret, so she participated in the secret relationship. She would meet at his house and stay late. Seems inappropriate, right? She and he got physical, and she would express concerns about getting physical, but he would answer all of her questions and then dismiss her concerns. And she said, quote, made me feel childish. Isn't that always the way? They suddenly play the victim when it's convenient. Megan Frey says, here's the other one, saying she's now 35 years old, ready to tell her story. And she says, quote, not for sympathy, not for attention, not for revenge. And she's saying all these things. She's denying all these things, but this is what she's getting, and this is what she wants. Usually people will say, not for this, but it is really for that. So she's saying it's not for sympathy, it is for sympathy. Not for attention, it is for attention. Not for revenge, it is revenge. Not to join the hashtag #MeToo and hashtag Church2 crusade, it is for those things. And then she said, but it's to bring the darkness to light. So that's how she's rationalizing being evil to this man that she was so-called in love with, right? Until recently, I don't know that there was a term for it. Didn't know that there was a term for it, but she names it pastoral abuse. Instead, I've known it as shame and guilt because I blamed myself for what my youth pastor, Wesley Feltner, did to me. So she's seeing herself as the victim now because she's saying that he did something to her. In reality, they're doing stuff they did stuff to each other, and now she's doing something to him. So it's just an example of the attack on men. And these stupid church women are falling for it. And it is Church 2 because Huffington Post specifically named hashtag Church 2. She's denying that it's part of it, but it is part of it. And they're blaming pastoral abuse. Yeah, he shouldn't have been doing that, I guess. If he probably shouldn't have been dating, obviously. Like, look at the results now. He shouldn't have. But he was young and not wise. But that's not his fault for her thinking that she's been abused. Stupid. So anyways, let me get to some calls, and then I'll get to some actual news, right? I just wanted to get that out of the way because I've been teasing it for like days, and it was annoying to me. If you have anything to say about it, please let me know. So let me get to Rick out of Maine. Rick, how you doing? Nice to hear from you.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Doing fine. What's up?
Rolling down the road trying to make a buck.
Right on.
There's an old saying about that situation with that young lady. Well, it's actually two I'd like to enlighten you with.
Okay.
Number one is hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Yeah, these women are vicious.
Number two, if you play with matches, you're going to get burned.
Yep. Those are two good things.
You know,
Lessons.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of generations that are younger than I were never taught that.
I know. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I feel sorry that whole thing had to happen, but, like I say, if you play with matches.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, and these men are bearing the brunt of it on the outside, but inwardly, these women are suffering too. They're not going to get away with it.
They are. Yeah, and they're not going to forget it. They're not going to let it go either.
They're undermining themselves.
I think there should be a statute of limitations.
Yeah.
As there is in a lot of crimes. There should be a statute of limitations on how long it can be before someone steps forth and says something. If I had a case, I'm ex-deputy sheriff. If I had a case that I had to adjudicate in court. Then the day that it happened, everything got put down on paper. That way it was fresh in my mind.
Right.
I had all my statements correct. I had it notarized by a notary republic. Copies were sent to the courts, to the lawyers, da-da-da-da-da, the whole 9 yards. I didn't wait, 30, 60, 90 days or a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Then your thoughts become clouded.
Yep.
You're not 100% on the facts. So, it's something like that could be easily thrown out of court. I've seen it happen so many times.
Yep.
But,
supposedly, Rick, they tried to bring it to light, but they were told to be quiet about it. And I think that was good advice, because it's an issue between the two of them. This guy was a youth pastor. He wasn't a real pastor. And it's so ridiculous to call that pastoral abuse.
Right.
I mean, I would, if I were the so-called senior pastor and he had done that, I would have told him not to date them in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
But I would have fired him, I guess. I would have been like, oh, yeah, you're not a youth pastor. Grow up and then come back. But these people want to ban him for life from being a minister, when there was no evidence of him doing anything wrong to them. All he did was, I don't know. All he did was like move from girl to girl, I guess.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Even if one does that, James, it all should be documented very shortly after the event. Then later on down the road, okay, the thoughts are recorded. We've got evidence. We've got this. We've got that. Then they can proceed with whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, that's just looking from a legal side of things.
From
my perspective.
But they didn't even accuse him of any crimes.
No. But they're bringing it publicly to smear his name.
Yeah. From 2002. From 2002, when he was probably, I don't know. That's a while ago.
Grief.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Rick. Your phone's cracking up,
brother.
Rick. I gotta go, man.
I'm in bad area. All right, talk with you later, buddy.
All right, take care. So, let me get to this Supreme Court stuff. Speaking of injustice, right? So the Supreme Court has been hearing stuff lately, and there's nobody good in the Supreme Court except for one guy. There's only one decent guy in the Supreme Court. And then, you could say that Trump's two nominees are okay at times. But there's nobody like Justice Clarence Thomas. But there's a whole lot of evil people in the Supreme Court. Obama nominated multiple ones on the Supreme Court. Elena Kagan, whatever her name is, a female. I forget what she is. And then they had that Sotomayor, who's like a Latina social justice Supreme Court justice, which is not justice. Nothing just about her. And then there's, of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who some of you think she's dead. She's old and decrepit. And worse than that, she's evil. That's the real issue, is she's evil. She's pro-abortion, and people love her for that because they're feminists. They don't actually love her. They like her. And then there's like a bunch of beta males who are one liberal, outright liberal, and then a few just rhino types. Bunch of liberals, betas. Rhinos are liberals, right? And so the Supreme Court, according to Drudge and AP, ruled that these so-called victims and families of mass shootings can sue Remington or Bushmaster, I don't know, these gun makers. They're suing gun makers. And the pretense is that these gun makers marketed irresponsibly, targeting vulnerable, at-risk young men with their marketing. making guns seem cool and putting them in violent video games. And so that means that they can sue and they are responsible. That means that somehow these gun makers are responsible for the deaths of these kids that were killed in the 2012 December 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, right? And a lot of you guys think that they were crisis actors and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that. I figure that it's probably happened because society is ripe for this to happen. If anything, they should be suing the people who introduced no-fault divorce. Because this guy was a child of divorce, as I recall. Adam Lanza, this 20-year-old guy, living with his mother, I think, got his mother's gun. I think it was his mother's gun, right? If I remember right. I mean, these stories are so old. And he went to his school. I forget what type of problem he was, but he was a wide-eyed, crazy-looking white grown adult who never really grew up emotionally and even physically, if you look at him, and spiritually. He was a pathetic beta male. If anything, you should be suing the liberals for pushing education and women and divorce and all that mess, because this is what they're pushing. They're pushing for evil. And of course, when evil happens, especially outright violent evil, they're the ones to blame. And of course, so are the parents. The father did speak to the media later, but he was a mess afterwards. Like he couldn't believe it. If I remember right, I think it was Adam Lanza's father. But the boy was distant from his father. He was weak, but they want to blame the gun makers, and it's so ridiculous. And I wonder I didn't happen to look at what Clarence Thomas would have said, but I don't think that he would have been for this. And he's like the only really, truly sane person in there, in the whole Justice Department, I would say. I don't know, there's a couple of other good guys, but it's so ridiculous. That back in 2013, they have this picture of this not exactly feminine-looking woman showing off, detective, I guess, showing off the Bushmaster gun. And the Remington Arms is arguing that they should be protected from lawsuits when their products are used in crimes, which they should. But no, there's a very anti-Second Amendment push in America, and it's very anti-American, to be honest. And I remember famously, after this shooting, the NRA spokesman, I think he's a spokesman, Wayne LaPierre, he said one of the ways to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I remember that triggered all the liberals. To this day, they hate him for that, because that was such common sense, logic, manly. That was too manly, Wayne LaPierre. No good cops with guns. And so they try to come up with situations where a good guy had a gun and something went wrong. Well, for example, there was a guy that, American Sniper, remember that guy? He was helping out a man who had PTSD, and then that man flipped out and shot him to death, if I remember correctly. And they're saying the good guy had the gun. But no, that's not the case. The good guy did not have the gun. The bad guy had the gun. And this PTSD thing is part of that weakening of society, which is introduced by liberals and fake conservatives. And most of us are fake conservatives. Chris Kyle, yeah, was American Sniper. And he came on the Jesse Lee Peterson show before he was murdered, by the way. You can check out that interview. I think it's on YouTube, Jesse Lee Peterson YouTube. But another case that happened just more recently, and video footage came out of it, surveillance video footage. I covered it in my Sunday show report about Trump doesn't like chokers. Are you a choker? And I mentioned this black guy who moved back to Oregon or Washington somewhere. He was an NFL player, but he moved back to help people. And so he was a security guard and a football coach at this, I think it was a high school. And this misfit kid went to school with a shotgun, and the security guard football coach, black dude, encountered the kid, took the gun from him and hugged him, and kind of hugged him to protect himself and everybody else, because that's what you kind of have to do. But he was also hugging him. Oh, there, little child. And Keenan Lowe, yeah. And that became a good guy with a gun. He took the gun away from the bad kid, the bad guy. The guy was maybe 18. The guy, I think he was a Mexican that wanted to, and the guy wanted to either shoot himself or other people. He hadn't really decided, according to what I heard about the story. Who knows? But he prevented the guy from killing himself or others. So good for him. He got the gun away from him. Good guy with a gun. And what they don't say, I think what they don't realize is I think there are more crimes prevented. I think I heard it from Sean Hannity, who's a journalist. More crimes are prevented with using guns than are committed using guns, I think, or stopped with guns than are committed. And I think that's true, because you don't always have to fire a shot. Most of the time you don't. Just the presence of a person with a gun. Most of the white boys who do these mass shootings, they're cowards. They're not like hardened thugs that are ready to die, ready to kill or be killed. So they're like, ah. That's why the blacks are always complaining that the whites are captured peacefully, and then the blacks are shot because the blacks don't surrender. Anyways, so Wayne LaPierre was right about good guy with a gun. And you're not going to take away the guns from the bad guys. You're just not. But they don't like common sense. And these people they don't like America, really. They don't like men. They're just a bunch of female thinking people. And the judges are so corrupt. In another story with the ACLU, which should be kicked out of the country, the American so-called Civil Liberties Union, which is un-American, as Jesse Lee Peterson said. Jesse Lee Peterson debated ACLU people multiple times. In one case, he said, the ACLU is un-American, don't listen to them. That was over at Politicon, I think a year, maybe 2 years ago. But the ACLU sued, and some stupid Obama judge, black female, pretends that they're caring about the Fourth Amendment. And the Fourth Amendment is about unlawful search and seizure, right? And so travelers coming into the country, doesn't matter if they're citizens or not, because these people advocate more on behalf of illegal aliens and terrorists than they do on behalf of decent Americans. And so these people, a lot of Muslims and others, have had their phones and computers searched by Customs and Border Protection and by ICE. And they should have the leeway to do that. When you're coming into the country, what do you have on your phone? What are you doing? They're looking for child pornography a lot of the times. They're looking for fraudulent stuff, media stuff. And they should have the right to do that. But this judge says, no, you have to be able to point to specific facts. But not every time are you going to be able to point to a specific fact, because you can profile people. You can get a feel for people. And if you have this gut sense about people, you should be able to investigate them. But no, she's like, you have to point to specific facts, but you're not always able to point to specific facts. You can have a gut feeling, and you should be allowed to follow that gut feeling. But this black female Obama judge sides with the ACLU. And the ACLU, by the way, is part of the trash in America, trying to block the border from becoming protected. They want the Mexicans coming in unfettered. And, I wanted to bring up how, a lot of journalists are so-called underpaid, right? They're showing off how little they're paid or how much they're paid. And it's such a woman thing. Like, they're so, like, social justice type stuff. Talking about, oh, you know, we're providing a service. Oh, other people should be paid as much as me. Or, oh, I'm not paid as much as other people. It's all, like, comparing and all that stuff. But you're not really getting the whole story. And people get what they deserve most of the time. But the ACLU is getting supported because there's a whole mass of brainwashed people who are donating to them. I've had friends that donate to the ACLU. Disgusting. In fact, I've had friends, or wives of friends, a friend's wife who works with the ACLU. Ridiculous. And she calls herself a Christian. That's disgusting. You can't be a Christian and work for the ACLU. Unless you're trying to be like a positive influence inside the ACLU, knowing how corrupt the ACLU is, then I guess you could. You could be a light in the darkness. But it's such a mess. It's so evil. Speaking of that, the NFL is another outlet that's pushed around all these sports establishment, sports organizations that you think of, or I don't know if any of you guys ever thought of it this way, but I always thought that the NBA, the NFL, even ESPN were like supposed to be kind of like American, pro-American, manly, pro like the laws of nature. And nature's God, well, maybe not so much about God, but about the laws of nature, which means like masculinity, athletic prowess, just down-to-earth stuff. Not into politics, but sure enough, they are all about politics. And it's so phony. So this guy, what's his name? Colin Kaepernick. He came out in 2016. Nobody had really known or heard about him. I guess he was a talented rookie. But to my knowledge, he kind of took a dive after his beginner's luck, let's call it. Because he was very talented, I guess. He joined the NFL, he must have been very talented. Correct me if I'm wrong, but after he got that girlfriend, women weak in the legs, he took a dive in his abilities. He wasn't performing so well. He became a little bit more mediocre. Maybe he settled, which is frequent. He doesn't have that killer instinct like Kobe, right? Comparing other sports, right? So these establishment sports... Oh, let me show you what this guy did. So he used to just sit out the national anthem, just sitting out on the thing like a bump on the log. He's like this. That's like the famous picture. Sitting like this. And so he was sitting, it looked like he was sitting on the bench or maybe the ice chest. Just looking lame. And that was Colin Kaepernick, and that was during the national anthem. And some journalist, sports journalist, I think, highlighted him, like took a circle picture of him and showed him on the screen. I wish I had that picture for you to show you that he didn't start off kneeling. He started off sitting it out, so disrespectful. And then some guy, some liberal so-called veteran, Marine, I think he was a Marine maybe, but he got a hold of him and said, no, this is not good PR. At least look like you're being respectful. And it was some stupid white guy. And so he started kneeling, and it looked like at least a little bit more dignified. But it was still outright disrespect for the country, for the military, and everything else. Oh, there he is. You see him just sitting there. There are others, like you can see the back of him. Oh, no, there's two guys. Okay, I see him. Oh, he's kneeling there. There are others, though. I'll have to pull it up and tweet it out or something. It may be kind of tough to find. But anyways, let me show you this quote because he was interviewed about it. Like, why are you sitting out the national anthem? And so here's what he says. I have this quote. I'm not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. And he goes on, there are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. And he's pretending that it would be selfish on his part to look the other way. So it's so womanly, right? It reminds me of these Church 2 women that say, it would be wrong of me not to come forward and bring this to light about pastoral abuse, right? So he refused to stand to the national anthem, and that's an excerpt from an NFL.com exclusive interview with Steve Weitchie, whatever. And so that's his quote. Bodies in the street, people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. And he's referring to not the gangs in Chicago that are getting away with murder, not the gangs all over the country that are getting away with murder of black on black crime, because those are the people that are getting away with murder. In Chicago, I think it's 82% of murders, homicides, go unsolved, unpunished. No arrests, no suspects named. They get away with it. That's people getting away with murder. There it is, I think. Yeah, there he is with the red arrow. Joel found it. Very resourceful, Joel. 30% working hard. But look, you can see he's sitting next to the Gatorades while everybody else is supposed to, or at least acting like they're respecting the country. But he said that he's not going to show pride or respect for the country. Even the guy next to, oh no, that's two pictures. There's a guy with no legs, a Marine guy, veteran, severely injured, no legs, and he's standing. He's standing on top of his wheelchair while this guy is sitting there looking down like a bump on a log. Why does he have a walkie-talkie on him? Looking like an idiot. And it's his own fault that he doesn't, have a job, by the way. He opted out of his 49ers contract. He could have stayed with the 49ers. They were not going to fire him because they're too scared of the social justice warrior crowd. And the social justice warrior crowd are not the fans, because most fans are more sensible than that. Some fans, they're a lot of brainwashed fans, right? Who don't really care about reality, so they just immerse themselves in entertainment. Gladiator stuff, right? Kind of like Rome. Oh, just keep them entertained while their country dies. But the social justice warriors are in these PR departments of these, or I don't know what you call it, human resources, all that stuff, attacking the common sense of the business people. And the business people are too weak and concerned about money and optics and mess that they don't care about the people. They don't care about what's right. And they're blind anyways, idiots. So he also lied that there is no oppression of black people and people of color. The only people oppressing blacks and people of color are the mothers of these people.
You are not oppressed.
Who is that? That sounded familiar. Who was that?
She's a random lady.
Okay. Just a random lady. It wasn't Oprah. It wasn't Big Mama Michelle, I don't think.
No.
It wasn't Pocahontas.
There's this Congress lady. I remember we played a video and she was talking about how she was yelling at the white man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. It did sound like a liberal woman. Stupid. And that's what she should be saying to Colin Kaepernick's victims. Because Colin Kaepernick wasn't standing up for himself because he's not oppressed. But he was pretending to take the side of the oppressed black people and people of color. Meanwhile, he's brainwashing them. You had high school kids, you had 7-year-olds kneeling for the anthem, disrespecting the country. And he openly said, I'm not going to take pride or stand up to show respect for the country that oppresses black people. So it was open disrespect of the country. He's evil. But now he's like trying to make a comeback. It's been 3 years. He got out in 2016. He hasn't played since 2016 because he opted out. Women weaken the legs. He got that Muslim SJW DJ Egyptian girlfriend. who's older than him, by the way. Looks just like his mother. Well, not his real mother. I think his real mother's white. By the way, the NFL also kisses up to that Komen for the Cure stuff. They support that Komen for the Cure is a fake wannabe pro-woman organization. All these guys, you'll see the NFL players wearing pink now and then. But that's from Susan G Komen, right? Komen for the Cure. That's for the cure of breast cancer, I believe. And breast cancer is linked with abortion. But you don't hear them talking about that. Susan G Komen group is pro-abortion, pro-Planned Parenthood. These are disgusting people. But you didn't know that, or maybe you did. But there is an abortion breast cancer link. I think that may be why a lot of black mothers are getting the breast cancer, because they're more likely per capita to get abortion. And at a young age, too. It's Jesse Lee Peterson interviewed this guy, I'm blanking on his name, about the ABC link. It's called the ABC link, abortion breast cancer link. And the reason why there is a link is because you're disrupting the whole bodily function. Once you get pregnant as a woman, if you're a woman or even a girl underage, it's better to let that process play out completely than abort it. Not only are you killing the child, you're messing up your body, because suddenly, like, there's all these hormones and things that happen. The breasts develop in order to feed the child, but the child never comes, and then it messes up the body because it's getting ready for something, and then it suddenly gets cut off and broken off. And then breast cancer is more likely. It's a statistical correlation. There's an abortion. Yeah, Joel Brind. Joel. It's spelled Joel, but it's pronounced Joel. Joel. Brind on the JLP show. He's been on once or twice. The first one was really good. Deputy chair for biology at Baruch College. So, just letting you guys know about that. I'm going to get to these beta journalists maybe this hour or maybe tomorrow, I don't know. But let me first get to my favorite caller. She's been on hold for quite some time. Mase, out of Dayton, Ohio. How are you doing, Mase?
Well, now you're a doctor. So could I ask you a question that you can give an answer to?
All right.
What's the problem with men prostate? Why do they have prostate cancer? Because they miss.
I don't know. Maybe they're doing something wrong too much too.
Or not having children.
that could be part of it.
Children? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the most ridiculous thing.
You care about men?
Excuse me?
You love men?
Of course I love men.
You love Trump?
I love everybody.
How come you're taking on this like Jamaican sounding accent?
Excuse me? I don't have to love what they do I? Do you have to love somebody because they're doing something wrong? Do you have to love the wrong thing that they're doing?
No, you don't have to love the wrong thing that Susan G Komen for the Cure thing does, or Colin Kaepernick, or this Obama judge, or the ACLU, or these dumb women in the brought to the light.org women, or the Huffington Post. You don't have to love what they do.
Hate these people because you don't
but
like
there's no such thing as loving what they do.
I'm asking you, am I supposed to hate these people because you don't like them?
Yes.
Or do I form my own opinion of what do I see in those people?
What's your own opinion?
My opinion is I do not have to hate those people because you hate them.
What did you call ridiculous?
When you were saying that breast cancer, having an abortion causes breast cancer.
I didn't say it causes breast cancer. I said there's a link.
Is a link really? So
yeah.
Is there a link to prostate cancer to men because they're not making kids?
Yeah, there probably is.
Is there a link to? Since
yeah.
You want to be a doctor today.
What's that?
Since you want to be a doctor today.
No, I'm referencing a Dr. Joel Brind.
Well, Dr. Joel Brind, you're really.
Yeah.
Anyway, James, I called to let you know. Since the hog wants to know me, who I like and who I
Blazing
like.
hogs.
Yes, and he doesn't understand. I hope he can comprehend what I got to say today. Well, first of all, I hate Caucasian people out just like I hate black people out. And
is she loud enough?
One long time ago, my daughter came home and said that this little girl had some raggedy shoes on. And she said, Mom, they pick at her every day. She said, can I give her a pair of my shoes? I said, no, she don't need any used shoes. We can give her some brand new shoes. So I bought her 3 pairs of shoes. And I told the teachers not to tell where they came from. And that's why I stopped being a Christian. because all of these teachers, like, and then when I gave it to her, and then everybody else wanted to give her stuff.
Say this again.
So,
you stopped being a Christian because of why?
I said because of these fake people pretending they're Christians. So I'm giving you the type of things that I did, as my kids was growing up, and things that I saw. I help white people just like I help black people.
Are you Jamaican or African?
Why did you ask me that question?
Because you're putting on this accent that makes you sound either Jamaican or African.
They say I talk too fast, so I'm talking so I can speak slowly.
Okay. And this is your real accent?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, sir. So anyway,
this is throwing me off.
This is the boss hog, since he helped children.
Boss hog.
This is the way people that hog.
Oh,
hog
man.
The one calling himself the hog. This is how you help people and do things for people, regardless of the color. You did not put them down, because I taught my kids and my family the belief we have: never do anything to embarrass your family, because outside your family, what people do is not you, and it does not represent you. So you all as Caucasians take whatever all people do that's black, that everybody do it. You don't have this. Is like the nut to call in Jesse Short this morning about the beer, my malt beer.
Mm-hmm.
He's so dumb. There's all kind of beer.
That was funny though. Somebody had to say it. I mean, you had. I mean,
he was jealous.
The interview would not have been complete if somebody did not bring up malt liquor and black people. You just have to.
No, he said that he said Caucasians drink malt liquor.
Oh, Skip might.
What do he think a brewery is? He told him to go to one, and maybe he might enjoy the different types of beers that they have. I don't drink, but I still have sense enough to know that there's different types of alcohol and wine and beer. So if you enjoy yourself and things like that, you'll see your life in a different way. For those inside in the woods and the night riders and things like that, they can't get a grasp of what's going on in America today. People are having fun and enjoying each other because they're lost.
When did you? Yeah, that's a good question. When did you come to America?
When did I was born in America? I was born right where Jesse Peterson was born.
Nice. When did your parents come to America?
He told, and he would not tell how those people lost their land in the place where he came from. They had acres and acres of land, like 300 and 400 acres of land. And they talk about the black farmers. Go back and look at what happened to them. The reason they lost their farms, they didn't lose their farms because they wanted to.
When did your parents come to America?
Caucasians were getting to do their loans. So as an American, and why I'm not a Christian, is because the Christians are not, the people that's supposed to be Christians are the devils. They are evil at heart. People like Hog, evil at heart.
I don't know. I haven't really detected an evil heart in Blazing Hogs.
You listen how you're trying to commit Kaepernick. You're trying to teach, kill and destroy. You are trying to destroy this man. It's like OJ. Nobody would never.
Oh, come on.
If you grew up in the edge, now you
Kaepernick is way worse than OJ.
Let me finish. You never know he was a good football player, and I could not stand him.
I heard that OJ was good.
Player. Before Nicole or whatever, I never liked him. My twin sister did, but I didn't.
Do you love all people? Mase,
yes, I didn't.
I have to get this question answered. Blazing Hogs does not know what a night rider is. What is a night rider?
Doesn't know what a night rider is.
No, he didn't know.
He's a lad, because listening to him yesterday, you could tell.
You could tell? Are you?
Yeah, he lives in one of those sundown towns. You know what a sundown town is? They still have those too.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, really?
Nothing good happens after 9:30 p.m.
No, you see, James, you lost. That's what I'm trying to say. If you knew your history, you'd think better of yourself. You don't know your history.
No.
And it's not hard for you to find out about it.
This woman, Hake, you are an idiot, says Snoogers.
Like I said, they can call me what they want to call me, but I know my name, so it doesn't bother me. I don't get upset with
ignorance. This is throwing me off.
So
I want the real Mase back.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, Mase has a twin sister. Did you know that?
Cool. Learn something new about you. I gotta go, Mase.
You don't believe you can ask Max Santos?
That's not logical to quit being a Christian just because of other Christians being evil heart.
No. They was not showing anything that.
I don't care what they was doing, because it's not logical to quit being a Christian just because of other Christians being evil.
Of evil people.
I gotta go, Mase.
So they need to stop.
All right, you have a good day, Mase.
Yeah,
nice hearing from you.
Have a good day.
All right. That is so creepy. I don't like that. I don't really feel that that's a real accent. Blazing Hogs, she did not explain to me, I didn't catch it anyways, what a night rider is. But, I mean, somebody kind of speculated that Knight Rider means gay. I didn't detect any gayness or evil heart or anything bad in I almost called him Knight Rider in Blazing Hogs. Anyways, guys, thank you. I'll talk about I'll talk about these journalists tomorrow, hopefully, if you want to. And we'll talk to you later. Rebuildingtheman.com. Check out the building fund. We're still at it. Thanks, guys.